Welcome to the Founders Show. Today we have someone very special, Mr. David Golding, a sober coach,
Bless you.
Very special domain that we'll be talking today. And with me, I have Kloe Kong. She is the co-founder and our co-host as well. Welcome everybody to the Founders Show.
Thank you so
Welcome
much for
to the show.
inviting me. Bless you. I'm very excited to be talking to you. Gosh, this is super.
So David, tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, today, I'd probably call myself, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What does that mean? I used to be in active addiction. So I'll go through this. But some years ago, I went through about 10 years of hell where that didn't come naturally to me. But I worked hard. So even at 7, I was always quite entrepreneurial. So I was cleaning gardens and shoveling snow and doing a paper round. And I think I understood at a young age that if you work hard, you can get somewhere. So I had honestly so many different jobs as a teenager.
Wow.
But I went to university and I studied nuclear physics. So even though I was this sort of shy boy, I had social anxiety and I wasn't a confident boy at all. But I was pretty smart, particularly with mathematics. So I would do software programming. So in the 80s, computers just came out. And there were some really early computers like the ZX80 and the ZX81 and the BBC Micro. So I was always programming. So I was sort of that loner at home programming. I would get the RS Components catalog and I would build things in electronics. Went to university, got my first job working for the British military, writing software. So I was a software engineer. And again, I would work really hard. That was no problem to me. I could work hard, but then there was this play hard side to me, which I learnt as a teenager. So I was living this dual life, actually, where professionally at work, I could work very hard, but every weekend was a blowout.
Wow.
So it's basically when you're like doing a job or working on something which is a limited income, you have to control yourself because you don't have unlimited funds to spend on, right? So what was that point? And tell us about the business, or let's say the company that you build, which not specifically the name or something, but I just wanted to know your journey. Like at what point you became successful that you thought that now I have unlimited wealth that I can do anything that I want, right? And that actually starts a dangerous period. So I want to know about that part.
Bless you. Okay, so my entrepreneurial journey lasted for 20 years. I would start companies, they would fail. I'd have an idea, I'd invest in it, it would fail. And each time I was learning, it didn't stop me, but I had all sorts of failures. I went to China in 2003 and imported products. I would have a website doing something else. I had a company that was doing speech recognition in 2003 called SpeechPoint. I was doing all sorts of things and trying and failing and trying and failing. But I think that for lots of entrepreneurs that are doing that, they're doing that in their bedroom. They're doing it in their garage. They've got a job and they're trying to do this work, this startup, this company on the side.
Yeah.
Very difficult to do that. You've got limited money. I ended up having a really successful set of careers as an IT consultant, as a project manager. And I was working for Barclays Bank as a highly paid consultant. And then I had an epiphany, which was, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm working really hard, I'm doing okay, but there was this entrepreneurial spirit and I wanted to do something. And actually, this is when I was 42, by the way.
So you quit your job at 42?
Quit my job at 42.
That's inspiring, yeah.
I'd found a company that were, and I'd love to tell this story, I'd found a company that were doing a payroll product. It's very important in this story for me. I'd called them up and I spoke to the salesman and he said, we've got this product. And I said, how long have you been trading? And he said, 3 years. And I said, how many customers have you got? He said, 300. Well, I went onto Google and saw that he'd been trading 18 months. So I called them back and spoke to the MD and said, your salesman's just lied to me. And I said, how long have you been trading? And he said, 18 months. And I said, how many customers have you got? And he said, 40. So I said, right. And I thought, I love their product and I love what they're doing. I'm going to go and do that. And I picked their business model apart. And I think all those 20 years, I would lie awake in bed at night thinking, I've got to invent bread, or I've got to invent the color purple, or do something magnificent that the world's never seen. Actually, I realized I've just got to do something better than somebody else.
That's so true. That's exactly what happened to me. When I host the events, I went to do the market research in Dubai. in January last year, and there's something missing. Nobody's doing any events in the high-end venues.
Yes.
I just need to do better.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
people come because my venues are better. You meet better crowd, and you met more entrepreneurs than just people working for someone as a BD manager.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
it's okay. It's quite right. I mean, I love when I see an entrepreneur who's invented something fantastic, and you think, oh my God, that's amazing. I was never going to do that. That's so rare. That's unicorn stuff. So actually, I started my company. So in 2007, I quit my job. I thought, this is it now. I'm going to do this. I put £110,000 on my credit cards. I left the house. I just got divorced. So it was like a moment where if I was ever going to do something, I'd do it now.
It's now, yeah.
I went to the Isle of Man, which is a little island off the coast of England where there's zero tax. I lived in a bedsit for £162 a month. It was in the loft of an old hotel.
Wow.
I couldn't stand up in it. It had a Velux window, and I used to stand up through the Velux window. But it was because I was spending all of my money on Google AdWords. I would get the bus to work, and there was an office with me and a table and Google AdWords. I'd built the website, I built the product, I'd done everything. And on September the 3rd, 2007, the company began. And people were calling, and I was learning what fit and what didn't and how to sell. And then the day came, and it was October the 7th. And a gentleman called me, and he was going to be my first client. And he said, I like everything. I'm going to sign the contract. I've got 2 questions. And he said, how long have you been trading? And how many customers have you got? And I thought, this is my moment. I'm going to be honest. And I said, I've only been trading a month. And he said, okay. And I said, but I've spent 9 months building the business. So let me tell you, it's all fantastic. And I said, you will be my first client. I said, but can you imagine the customer service you'll get?
And how important you'll be in my life.
Yeah.
That's exactly how you sell.
And from then, it went ballistic. We doubled the company in turnover every month. By March, I bought my first Ferrari. And in the first year, we turned over 33 million. And over the next 10 years, I started 100 companies, and we turned over 2 billion.
Wow. All in UK or globally?
Globally. I had offices in 17 jurisdictions around the world. One of them was Dubai, which is why I know Dubai very well, which is ultimately why I came back. But I had a great team, and the business grew. But this is where I will call it the dark side of success comes. I was not ready for that level of success. I was not ready for that amount of money. Okay, so I suffered from something called sudden wealth syndrome. Okay, so let's imagine David Golding version 1. He's not very good with money. He's always lived on overdraft. He's always lived on his credit cards. Look, I was at managing finances. I never had been. What am I going to do when I got £3 million? Well, I'm not going to be very good with that either. I think there was fear about losing the company. So I was ready to start as many companies as I could. I wanted to be liked and loved. So I would give friends jobs, pay them a big salary, buy them a car. I wanted to be loved. And I was still drinking. So actually, that 10 years between 2009 and 2019, on the outside, I presented this successful Ferraris, private jets, helicopters, yachts. I'm living this wonderful life. On the inside, I was a broken man. I was morally bankrupt. I was scared. I didn't know who my friends were. I would try and buy friends and buy love, and I was a complete mess.
Wow. That's crazy. And then I want to know the timeline.
No, and that's very interesting. I genuinely think that after the first year, so around 2008, 2009, the business was going great. I made a smart move, by the way, which was that I'd managed to get the business to sort of turning over 30 million. I knew I wasn't the right guy to turn over 100 million or 200 million. So I hired a chief exec. So he came in. So mostly he was managing the business, running the business, and I was still dipping in and dipping out. But over the years, I dipped in less and less. I turned up less and less. I found cocaine at the age of 43.
43.
So my company was a year old.
Wow.
And I genuinely think I watched movies and I thought, when you're rich and famous, you take cocaine. It's this party drug.
I know.
And I think I genuinely, I mean, this is how insane I was.
You thought you would never...
Going back to the sudden wealth syndrome. So see, there are 2 aspects to look at it. One aspect is the 5-10% of the people who actually become very successful with unlimited wealth.
Yeah.
They have to, you know, face the sudden wealth syndrome. But on the other side, 90% of the people with very limited money, they are damaging their health. They are going into that direction. They are being alcoholic just to avoid, you know, being in the race of the life. So what you have to say about these two different perspectives? I'd know your opinion being a coach, because our audience might be, you know, very interested to know how they can manage this side of things. So if you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, but I'd also say another thing, which is that human beings, we have three lives. Okay, we have the public life, the life today that I'm presenting. You know, I'm trying to look smart with a suit on and being careful about the words that I choose. And we have this public life, this public persona. Okay, there's a private life, which is behind the closed door of my home. And that private life, only my wife knows. Maybe there's some friends that know a little bit more, and I might let them into my private life. Then we have the secret life. There's a secret life that often people have, which is maybe secrets of their past, maybe things they've done that they're ashamed of, maybe things that drive them. And actually, when I'm working with a client, I'm getting into their secret life. You know, I have to find a way for you to get honest and tell me. Now, you can trust me. I mean, that's the whole point about building rapport and building trust. But we have to start to look at our secret life. So if you're an entrepreneur and you become a little bit egotistical and you're presenting this public persona, you know, only you will know what's going on behind closed doors. Only you will know how happy you are. And I think one of the things with sudden wealth syndrome, which for me was an important point, I'd always been driven to get money, get success. I wanted these accolades. I thought that would fix me.
Yeah.
Because I was broken. I knew I was broken. But that was my secret. The secret life of David was that I was broken. I was full of fear. I still didn't know how to make friends. People began to betray me. I was trying to buy friends. And actually, you know, when you get to the moment where I suddenly had wealth, it didn't make me happy.
Yeah.
It didn't.
And you have new problems.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
But almost my world came crashing down around me. I was 45 years old, 50 years old, and I'd worked a lifetime as an entrepreneur thinking that all this money was going to fix my problems. Well, actually, it brought new ones.
Yeah.
People came out of the woodwork. People that thought, oh, he's an easy touch. I'll sue him. I'll lie to him. I'll make up stories about him. I'll try and get some money. So I'm not trying to paint a picture that entrepreneurism is horrible. Much of this is because of me, of who David Golding version 1 was. And I talk like this, that David Golding version 1, he was a broken man. He was smart. He was good at mathematics. I can work hard, and I can sell, and I can come up with ideas. But, you know, when the success came, I was still David Golding.
Yeah, you were not ready.
I wasn't ready for that sort of level of success. And I honestly believe that lots of people aren't ready. People have somewhat of an identity crisis. Okay, so let's imagine a story where somebody is a Bitcoin billionaire. Okay, they suddenly made millions, billions in Bitcoin. What are you going to do? You're 26. What are you going to do? What's your purpose in life? And I believe that much of our happiness is not necessarily having a purpose. It's about being purposeful.
Yeah.
It's about striving for something, believing that you can help people, learning yourself about how to change, having, you know, running a podcast and doing something that helps other people.
Yes.
You know, this is where we give it away. We talk
The
about
value.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, paying it forward.
Exactly.
These are purposeful things. Chasing money is not purposeful.
And I also want to ask you, because we were asking about the childhood, and you said your father passed away. How old were you when he passed away? If you
I
don't
think I
mind?
was about 30.
You were 30 years old.
30,
30. And you have two sisters.
Yeah.
What were they doing in the family, or what does your father do, or what does your mom do? What are their are they entrepreneur, or they're working their whole life for a company or
Great
government?
question.
Yeah.
We had a really humble household, actually. My father worked in local government. He didn't earn much money. My mother was a nurse, but she hurt her back, so she worked at the local school. So we didn't have a great deal of money. And I remember being ashamed and embarrassed about that.
In school?
In school. I'll give you an example. At the time in the 1970s, Levi jeans and Wrangler jeans, they were all the things that all the kids wanted, Levi jeans.
What is it, Levi?
Levi's, the brand.
Levi's, the American brand.
Yeah. So all the kids wanted to wear Levi jeans. And of course, if you were a child, you wanted to wear these clothes. We couldn't afford that. And I remember being picked on once because my jeans were called Blue Dollar. Okay? I remember the brand. They were cheap, Blue Dollar jeans. And you think, how superficial am I? I was 12. But the truth was, my secret was, they were my sister's jeans.
Wow.
They were hand-me-downs. And I remember being ashamed and embarrassed about this, that I didn't have any money, I didn't fit in. And maybe that's part of why I pushed myself. I wanted to earn money and work hard. I wanted to break out of where I was. And I think that's a driver for lots of people.
Yeah.
And I've seen most of the people who have disadvantages, life, they don't have things in the childhood. Those are the people who gets through the success, most likely because they wanted to chase the dreams and they wanted to fight with what they couldn't get in the childhood. Most of the people, if you have everything, there is nothing drives you, right? So that's the purpose of not from the humble background. I've seen most successful people, they're coming from these kind of backgrounds because they wanted to do something which they couldn't have in their childhood for their generations. So in terms of wealth has a very powerful, I think, a perception across the society as well. So let's say when you start to get wealthier, your family, the dominance, they think that whatever you're saying, whatever you're deciding, if we, let's say, stop you from doing something, that might hurt your ego and you might, cut off the hands with them, and that can affect their livelihood. So when you become wealthier, you become more dominant across the society, across the family, and and then suddenly you feel whatever you're doing is right. So
listen, nobody needs a coach, nobody needs help if it's all going well. That's what you'll tell yourself. Hey, my life's great, everything's going well. And now within there is some denial. There's the human denial of I'm telling myself everything's okay, but actually is it? Am I glossing over some of the crises that I'm having? Am I glossing over the fact that my marriage is in trouble? Am I glossing over the fact that I keep missing work? Am I glossing over the fact that I've been arrested, I've crashed my car, I keep getting drunk, I get UBIs, they're called unknown beer injuries. I go out and I come home and I'm covered in bruises. I can't remember what I did.
That's quite. You were at the verge of a breakout in your life. So, what was the inspiration to dedicate the rest of your life to this particular industry, or let's say the initiative that you've taken to help the high wealth individuals? What was that inspiration, and how you came to this?
Bless you. Okay, so there's something in recovery. So people who get into recovery from addiction, we all know actually that one addict can speak to another addict. Okay, so it's about sharing experience. When I meet a client who's a cocaine addict, I've done that. I know what that feels like. He can't talk to his wife. She won't understand what that feels like and why he does it. So one addict can help another addict. And actually, I think there were two things. One, I wanted to be purposeful. It wasn't about money. It was about being purposeful. It was about paying it forward. It was about being grateful for being alive. How can I now help other people? Look, I've got to earn an income, but I want to work in a field where I'm happy to wake up and feel purposeful. And so I think it's about being purposeful. And I think it's about me, actually, we call it staying in the lifeboat. I need to stay in the lifeboat. If I'm in the lifeboat with recovery, and all I do is recovery, and all I do is work and read and talk and help people, that means I'm in the world of recovery.
That's actually brilliant, because I always say, Kloe, that it's a blessing that if whatever you're doing, it's aligned with your passion. You're making money with what you love to do.
Yes.
As she loves going into the events, she has her event company, and she loves what she does.
Yes.
And if there is a purpose to what you're doing and that's making money for you, incredible. That's the
and
life.
I don't feel like working
No.
every single day, because I love to connect people. I love to meet new people. I love to have inspire conversations with entrepreneurs or whoever wants to be an entrepreneur, or maybe I can be inspired to that person who wants to be an entrepreneur, and it's about helping people basically. This is how you bring the value to the society, and
trying to be the best version of myself, that takes practice.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, I used to be incredibly intolerant, and when I had lots of money, I could be so intolerant, you can get out, I'm not interested. No, I had to learn tolerance. It didn't come naturally to me. So I had to learn how to be more tolerant.
Yeah.
So these are life skills that I didn't pick up as a teenager because I was drinking.
Yeah, and I'll pick up the point she mentioned. Let's go, deeper in the recovery phase,
Yes.
right? So can you share some sort of case study, of course, keeping the information confidential, but we want to know the process. Let's say somebody who is addicted to alcohol or some drugs, like how the treatment recovery process is and what changes. Like, can you share some kind of case study being a coach in this particular domain so our audience can know that how this process looks like, and if they want to, let's say, change their life towards a better one, what are the steps they need to take?
No, bless you. Okay, so I'm known as Sobarcoach Dubai, and I've got my website, which is sober.ae, and people can find me. Okay, so that's the number one thing, that they can Google and find me, and that only happened yesterday, and people find me. Okay, I'll tell you some truths. 95% of the time, it's the wife that gets in touch with me. Okay, and it's normally the wife, and they'll say, look, Brian is really struggling.
Okay.
Brian's struggling with alcohol or drugs. He needs to get sober. Can you help him? And my first question is, does Brian want to get sober?
Yeah.
It's great that you want him to get sober. Where's Brian?
Yeah.
What does he want to do? So I say, can we have a Zoom call with Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes Brian won't turn up.
Brian is not ready.
He's not ready. Brian's missing. So
Brian's missing. The wife is there.
By the way,
just to
my
tell
God.
everybody, Brian is a character.
He's a
just an
fictitious
imaginary.
man. I always talk about Brian. I
No
don't know
hard
what.
feelings to real Brians.
If you're really called Brian, you're a good guy.
Yeah.
So the trick is where's Brian up to? Is he doing this introspection? Is he accepting that his life's a mess, that he needs some help? I mean, that's the first thing, admitting that you need help.
Coming out from the self-denial all the time. Yeah.
And for some men, they think that asking for help is a weakness.
Yeah. Even asking for direction.
Yeah.
For me, I always ask because then if someone works in this place, they know where's the location. But for men, they will go to a machine. They will try to figure out for 10 minutes. Me, I just ask. There's no shame about it.
Correct. But
there's always an expert in every single industry, and you just need to ask.
We've learned to lean on experts. And I think that, hey, mentors are amazing. Everybody should find a mentor in their discipline because we all need some advice to shortcut things. Don't make the same mistakes. But some people won't ask, or they think, no, I can do that. Okay, so let's imagine that we have a Zoom call, and now Brian says, no, I agree, I'm screwed. What can I do? I go through the same 4 things, and I'll briefly tell you. The number one thing I say is, depending on how they present, is you can't do any worse than go into rehab. My job, I even putting myself out of work, I would prefer you to go to rehab, particularly if you've got a crack addiction, or if you're an alcoholic. Quitting alcohol, you can get the DTs and you can have seizures and you can die. It's serious if you've got a physical addiction. Okay, so go to rehab. They're brilliant. I can help you find a rehab. And they say often, I'm not going to rehab. I've got an important company. I need to go to work. I'm not going to rehab. Or I'm famous. I've known of people who are famous and they go, and in the UAE, you'll have a look and find it. Lots of meetings.
Amazing.
So people can go to meetings. Lots of people walk in off the street and say, I need to stop drinking. Can you help me? I'll tell you there'll be 50 people wanting to help you.
Wow.
That's the point about giving it away. The truth is that we're all so bloody grateful that we got sober. I'll help the next guy. And that's how I almost began in my journey. Okay, so I say to Brian, go to AA. It's free of charge. And he says, I'm not going to AA. So I say, okay, well, your third choice is to work with somebody like me.
Okay.
So I'm a coach. So I can coach you on a daily, a weekly. I can live with you. The greatest success is when I come and live with you. I live with you for minimum 28 days. I've got a reliable and repeatable program of work. I won't let you out my sight. I'll go to work, to business, I'll travel with you. I'm going to teach you every single day. You're going to put down the drink and drugs, bearing in mind if they're okay to do that, given medical problems. And I'll work with you. And then after that, we'll continue to work together until you change who you are. You know, that Brian version 1 needs to become Brian version 2.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, what's the fourth option? I don't want to go to rehab. I don't want to go to AA, and I don't want to work with you. And I say, you're doing it.
Keep doing it.
Option 4 is what you're doing today, my friend. Read a book, find a hypnotist. I don't know. But you're already in option 4. There aren't any more options.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your lot. But actually, if you see option 1, option 2, and option 3, they're all the same. Get help. Option 4, not looking for help.
Okay.
And that's the big difference.
Denial, yeah.
Denial, but finding some humility to say, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I need some bloody help.
Accepting.
And that was what happened to me. And that's what happens pretty much to everybody.
And then if someone books you, then you move in with them
Yep.
immediately.
Yep.
And then you go to the office with them.
Yep.
When they have a business trip, you go with them.
Yep.
And then is that...
So talking about your venture, it's an incredible work that you're doing, first of all. And I think it's so special to have you here so that our audience know that what kind of, communities are there if somebody wants to, quit the drugs. So when it comes to volume, right now, it's a lot of commitment. So let's say when you have a client, you have to live with them, right? So have you planned to establish a team or train people under your company that can, scale the volume? Because, of course, the idea is incredible. And I think what made you do that is to have this idea live for generations, but you're not gonna be there, right? So what have you done to automate this, or let's say build this as
exactly, because you can do maximum 12 clients a year, maximum.
Being an AI specialist, I can get a lot of ideas, but I want to know from you, like, hey, listen, what is your plan?
I'm looking for, if you can cross over Dolly the sheep and AI and clone me, that would be great. But I don't think my wife will be happy. But okay, so let's just talk about why I work with ultra high net worth clients. And some people say, well, they're just the richest and you want the most money. Actually, it's a community of people that are lost. Where else do they go? Okay. They deserve recovery as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're a very particular set of people. They're driven. They've got different needs. And just because they've got a big bank balance doesn't make them any different. Okay. So actually, one of the reasons that I do so well is that they identify with me and I identify with them. So they might try and find a different coach or a mentor who's lived a completely different life. I've lived their life and I've had wealth and I know what that feels like. And I'm also insane and I've done all these crazy things. So I've dedicated myself because that's my niche. That's my best focus. Previously, I've tried to create courses that are a bit more mass market. That doesn't quite work for me. I don't think I am a mass market guy. And what I mean by that is there's lots of fantastic coaches that are out there, by the way. If you go onto Instagram, you'll find lots of sober coaches that do online programs or, online meetings. That's not me. That's not my niche. That's not my forte. So I think that I'm okay with the niche that I have because there's a community of people that I know I can help.
Okay. So my question is, now let's say you did 20 clients the past 2 years, because every client you can only do 28 days, right? Let's say you have 20 clients, you already did. What are the services do you provide to them? Do you just help them get out of it after 1 month, or do you provide other kind of services to them?
Bless you.
Because there should be some follow-up services.
Of course,
because, right? Otherwise, your service is only 28 days and that's it.
No, that's right. No, I don't just run away and say, good luck, Brian. No, it's called aftercare.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we continue to work with them as often or as not. I think it's good to keep in touch with them. Yeah. Particularly sometimes life events happen. And I think I said before, who needs a coach when life's going great? Well, life won't go great all the time. There'll be a surprise. Something will happen. Maybe a family member dies. Maybe business takes a downturn. And you get upset. What are you going to do? So they've always got my number. They call me anytime. I'll fly out within 48 hours anywhere on the planet. I'll do those sorts of things. There's actually all sorts of other services that I provide that's very difficult to talk about. But I'll try and expose some of these services. So I'll do sober transport, which means I will take somebody to a rehab and pick them up. Okay, so for example, let's say Brian says, okay, I'm going to go to rehab. This is a true story, actually, which is not my client, but a client says to his wife, okay, I'm going to go to England. I'm going to go to rehab. It's all been arranged. He goes to the airport and he flies to Thailand. It doesn't turn up. Goes to Bangkok.
Wow.
Well, it's because he's full of fear. He's scared. I don't know whether I can go to rehab. And in that moment when he's full of fear, he's in the airport. Oh, I'll just buy a ticket somewhere else. So he doesn't actually turn up. So I can help with that. There's other situations where family members, children, they might get lost. I know of instances, one of the ladies that I work with, she worked with a family whose daughter went in the summer to Milan, never came home. Met with the wrong crowd, was living with some drug dealers, and we go and we do crisis rescue. So we go and rescue people and retrieve them and maybe take them to a rehab or bring them home.
Because you used to work with military, you
Correct.
mentioned years ago. So
Correct. And I've got another gentleman in a team who does more close protection security work. People are trafficked, children are trafficked, they'll go and rescue them. So this is not the sort of common things that I do as a sober coach, but my team...
But you have an ecosystem.
We do
on the back
lots
end,
of things.
Since
I
we're
can see now,
moving
yeah.
towards the conclusion and amazing time, we were having a great conversation here.
this is the best conversation I've had.
Bless you.
So I would ask particularly, like, take your closing lines as well for the audience. So you get involved when the person reaches to the breaking point. I've learned some health and safety, I've done some courses. So what I know is that there are near misses. If you take measures early so that you can, save yourself from the big damage.
Yeah.
So what would be your message to the audience, to the people who just got started with these, alcohol addiction or these kind of drugs because they have some money to spend?
Yeah.
What would be your message, like, so that they don't reach to the point where someone like you needs to get involved, because that's the breaking point where they're like nearly dead, right? So what you would have to say about that?
Okay, so for the person, when you're looking at self, I can only speak to you to say, be very careful, know that you are not immune, you are not different, be very careful, and for you to look at, is alcohol your friend? Is your life getting out of control? You're going to have to be honest. How are you genuinely feeling? Are you suffering lots of consequences? Is your life going down the spiral? Are you pretending that you're okay when you're not okay? Are you suffering from mental health problems? Do you have anxiety and depression? Are you trying to paper over the cracks? Are you pretending that everything's okay when it isn't? Please speak to somebody. The number one thing is to talk to somebody. When my thoughts are up here, they're going nowhere. I can't tell what you're thinking. I can tell now by the words that you use. So for family members, begin to listen to the words that people use.
And that's for the parents as well.
And the parents.
Yeah.
So words betray us.
Yeah.
Words, we choose our words.
Yeah.
I can't tell what you're thinking, but I can listen intently to the words that you're using. And then the best one, of course, is your behavior. Yeah. I can see what you're doing. Okay, so there's another thing, which is one of the things that I do is I'm an interventionist. So you've probably seen it on TV, and they like to portray car crash TV, where there's this big intervention and they pluck the person with the addiction and they all shout at them and say, you've ruined our lives, you need to go to rehab. But I do interventions. There's a particular method that I use, which is called Arise. So we can do interventions. So don't anyone think that you can't intervene. You can. You can save lives. There's plenty of people where they could have been intervened upon and they're now dead. So don't think for a second that you're you're doing the wrong thing. If you love somebody, you can intervene.
Yeah,
you know, I want to have a true story moment. So beginning of February, so that's 2 months ago, my aunt, my real aunt, we're neighbors. My aunt and my family, they're neighbors. So my aunt got to an internet scheme where she lost nearly 1 million RMB, which is 50 million AED, within 2 days.
Wow.
2 days, he was still sending money, and he couldn't have. She doesn't have so much cash flow because my uncle also has, his separate bank account, and then so she basically transferred all this 1 million RMB within 2 nights, and they're telling her by the third night she will get double her money back.
Wow.
But this is all the scheme. You are greedy, and then you want to double your money within 2 or 3 days. And then finally, she had all her cash flow out, and the scammers, they told her, we're missing 120,000, and then we can close it, and the next morning you will get double your money back.
Wow.
And then she started to ask her friend to borrow money. She couldn't ask my mom because my mom knows how much money they have. If she start to ask for money, my mom will ask her what for. right? And then she asked 120K from her close friend. And the lady, she gave her the money immediately because she was a very close friend.
Sure.
And she said it was an emergency. But she doesn't know how much money she has in the bank account as a cash flow. But my mom knows.
Yeah.
So, and then the right move she did was she called my uncle and she said, your wife asked me for money. I gave it to her. I hope everything's okay. And then my uncle called my mom immediately because my uncle is working in another city. And then she said, my uncle told my mother to go to their place immediately to see what's going on because they don't need to borrow money, you know? My mom went there. My aunt has ID, credit card, all the credit cards, bank accounts, all on the table, doing all the transfer. So basically, she was brainwashed by these guys. And my mom immediately saw what's going to happen. And she called the police. And she said, you have to wake up. You have to stop all this. She took all the cards. She took her phone away. And the police came 5 minutes and brought them to the police station. And then they did all the procedures and asked her what happened, why you are sending all the money to all these accounts. And the same night, the police told my mom, tonight, you only need to do 2 things. 1, take away her phone. 2, sleep with her. Because a lot of people, they might suicide.
Correct.
You know? And my mom did exactly the same thing. And okay, so the money was lost because it was once it's transferred, it goes to Vietnam, to Singapore, everywhere in the world, Cyprus, and it's gone. But the most important thing is our life, because when you lose 1 million, would you die if I give you $1 million? No.
You can make it again.
Right?
Thankfully, your mom made the right.
Lots of people are going through lots of things that we don't know about.
We don't know, exactly.
It's the secret life of people. And if you're compassionate and empathic and you speak to people and you love and you care, even then they won't tell you. And I think that we have to be vigilant about the words that people use and the actions that they have, and try and be the best person that you can be. Because hands up, who's not needed help at some point in their life?
Everyone needs help sometimes.
Everybody needs help.
You just need to have that kind of person in your life that you can speak up and honestly, tell what's going on in your life. That's what you need. So we're like at the end, it was an incredible conversation. Thank you very much once again for being here. Just the last question and then we'll end, because this is the most because this is what I think my audience would love to know. So when you get into the alcohol or let's say the drugs, you feel that like you're more confident. If let's say you're giving a presentation, you say, I'm going to have 2 shots and I'm going to do it better, right?
It's called Dutch courage.
Dutch courage, there you go. So how to cope up with that? What would be your message to those people who think that alcohol makes them more confident, more powerful than what they are and what they could be without that?
Well, I think the truth is that maybe temporarily it might do at the beginning, but it's become something that you're going to rely upon. If let's say that your job is to present in front of people, and each time you go on stage you need a swig of vodka, where's that going to end?
Oh my God, man, I'm going to take 10 shots
where's
every
that going to end for you?
Sure.
Actually, you're probably better off realizing that you need to learn some new skills and actually enjoy doing that. At the moment, you're dealing with the anxiety and the fear of it. Actually, if you find a way, work with a coach to embrace that and realize it's a really great opportunity. And I bet that you would rather do that sober. Because the memory, just last story, when I got sober in my house, my wife had taken for the last 6-7 years photographs of every holiday we'd ever been on. And on the wall were about 200 photographs. And I looked at this wall sober, I didn't remember any of it.
Because every holiday you were drunk.
Every holiday I was drunk.
That's crazy.
And I admitted that to my wife, and she wasn't very happy because she's got lots of fond memories. And I'm saying, no, I was completely drunk every time. Where was that? Where was this? What year was that?
Yeah. So your memory gets better when you stop drinking
I'm
and stop
present.
drugs. You're present.
I'm not drunk.
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm living a real life that's authentic and peaceful. And I'm not chasing money. I'm absolutely today content to try and be the best person I can be. And sometimes I'll fall short, by the way. I'm not perfect. I've still got, I like chocolate. I eat too much chocolate, but that's okay. I'm not trying to kill myself. So, I'm a bit kinder today.
I have the last question. He asked the last question. Now it's my turn, okay?
Yeah.
I want to know, let's say, now you've stood up from all the things happened to you.
Yeah.
But we never know. Maybe in 10 years, something might happen to you, to your family. We don't know. Who would you go for help? Is there someone that you always go to when you have issues? Or what are you going to do? If you know.
Actually, if you go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, when you go to those meetings, you'll work with somebody called a sponsor. It's like a coach, but they give their time for free. So they're not a professional coach. There's somebody who's gone through the work. I've still got a sponsor. He's called Nick. He's a good friend now. He's amazing. And if I need to bounce something off, I'll speak to my sponsor. And his sponsor's got a sponsor. And his sponsor's got a sponsor.
Everyone has someone.
So we all coach each other.
It's a chain, yeah,
Oh, that's
network,
amazing.
yeah.
That's
Because
amazing.
the minute you think that you've got all the answers and I don't need to ask anyone's opinion, I think you're in trouble.
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't have all the answers.
Sure.
And actually, sometimes something happens, and I speak to Nick, and he says, "Oh yeah, that happened to me. I can only tell you what I did. But this is what I did." So it's not telling people what to do. We only talk about our own lived experience.
That's amazing. Because my audience also want to know because you're a coach, but maybe sometimes you need help as well.
I'm a human being, and I do need help.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for being
Bless
on the
you.
show. And
Thank you.
just for the audience, if you want to learn more about the services and if you need any assistance from David, you can go to sober.ae and this brilliant book, Alcoholics Anonymous. If you want to know how to get away from the addiction, this is the best book that you can have. Thank you so much, David,
Bless
for your
you.
time.
Thank you, David,
And
for
we wish
coming.
to see you soon.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I'm
Thank
so
you so
grateful.
much.